The 2025-26 sugar cycle has begun across North and Central America, regions that play a crucial role in global sugar supply. I'm Johanna Bota, and joining me today to discuss how the season is unfolding is Marcelo Bonifacio, Market Intelligence Analyst at StoneX Brazil. Good to see you again, Marcelo.
Good to see you. Hello.
So let's start with the big picture. Can you tell us how North and Central America fit into the global sugar landscape and why these regions are so influential?
So first of all, North America is a really major consumer of sugar, especially on Canada and United States. United States, one of the most populated country, and Canada has a large amount of sugar per capita consumption because of its because it is a developed country. So these two countries are one of the major importers of sugar, so they make a lot of prices around the year, especially on their crops when they are not producing sugar. And for Canada, they have more constant import of sugar because they produce few volumes around the year. And going south, we have Mexico and the Central American countries that produce sugar and export sugar. So they are major exporters of sugar, especially for the North American region. So they are the most important suppliers for American imports, alongside with Brazil, that is the major producing country in the world. So they feed this on the both sides of supply and demand, and they are really important. The exporters, North America and Central America, are really important for region prices and region dynamics for sugar market.
Let's focus on the US then, which produces sugar from cane and beets. Now, beet sugar production in the US is a bit different because the beets can be stored for months before they're processed. Can you explain how that flexibility affects the timing of production and flow of supply?
Yeah, sure. As we know, the sugar cane when it is harvested in the fields, they have to be crushed on the mills for a maximum for 48 hours after the harvest. So we have this limit for sugarcane because when we expand these hours after harvest, the content start to worsen. So sugar mills have this complexity of its field preparation. For sugar beet, however, we have a different dynamic. The sugar beet mills can storage for months. It depends, of course, of the quality of the sugar beet, but it gives more flexibility on getting better prices around the year and to prolong a bit the production. So the sugar beet fields were uh, between on the United States. They can harvest between September. They really started the crop in October, but in September, some fields already started the calendar crop, and they end the harvest between December and January. But the production of sugar can expand further to February, March, and April. So it is important to maintain the supply for a bit longer, not only when they have the feedstock, as we see in the sugarcane. Sugarcane, we have a bigger intercrop in terms of the industry production, and for the sugar beet, the mills can uh, prolong a bit the harvest season of sugar production, and it's better for supplying and to maintain the pace of supply around the sugar market.
I see. Okay, what about Mexico, which is also a major exporter? We've seen strong rainfall and an uptick in milling activity there this season. So, how are those factors shaping production this year?
Mexico is facing some difficult years for the sugar sector. And they have some structural problems and some structural challenges to to get through around its economy. And they face some years of droughts and years of uh, supplying production and energy supply. problems. And this year they are promising a better crop. They promise to expand for a bit, for around four 400,000 million metric tons, or sorry, 400,000 tons of sugar crop. As the Cona de Sucre, it's organization that uh, represents the sugarcane sector in the country. They expect this growth, and that will happen because of climate. The rains were really good this year. They were good on last year, but not. But as I said, the structural challenges that sugarcane Mexico sector has put another challenge for sugar production. And then this year they promise to deliver a better crop. They promise to expand its exports. But in terms of prices, the sugar mills are facing really low margins for sugar uh, productions, as we are seeing for most of countries, as sugar on the international market is trending on a 4-year low and really close to cost of production in most of the countries.
What about if we go a little bit farther south to Guatemala? It continues to stand out as a key exporter in Central America. What's the outlook there?
So Central America is a key producer, as I mentioned, for the region dynamics of sugar. Uh, as we know, because of its localization, uh, they have a lot of availability of rains during the intercrop, and they have a really bigger yields compared to another countries. They can have these facilitation for sugarcane sector, but because of the large excess of rains, when they have um, more rains than needed, as we saw last year, the crops get a bit worse than we imagined. Like the 24-25 crop, they had uh, they had struggled because of excess rain. They had some floods, and the sugar production dropped. But this year, the rains were a bit below the average, but were really good rains, and they promise to have a better crop in 25-26 crop, and they will expand the exports, as we are seeing Mexico, and they can see a well supplied region in terms of exports, and this will shape prices this in 2026, especially for the importers, as I mentioned, Canada and
Okay. So let's talk about demand now because US sugar consumption is falling for the third year in a row. Can you tell us what's driving that decline?
yeah, sure. We saw in the last 5 to 10 years that developed countries change uh, their dietary habits, especially European countries and on Australia. These both poles of sugar consumption, sorry, saw this trend on declining consumption. And then the United States, in the past 5 years, started to to present a similar trend, and we saw this third consecutive year of sugar consumption decline. And the first factor is this dietary change on the habits of population. The second factor that is the most important on the short term is the use of the GLP-1 analog medicines, the ones that contributes to weight loss. Uh, we know that the U.S. population is using much more of these medicines. An important research that was published by a major research house in the U.S. Presented that almost 13% of adult population in the United States are using or just use it some kind of GLP-1 analog medicine. So they are trying to consume less food or and less beverage content sugar. So that's the major factor that we are seeing in the short term and that we may see further on sugar consumption in the United States, especially on the 25-26 crop that seeing another. So they probably will have the fourth consecutive year of sugar consumption decline.
Okay. And before we wrap up, what should producers and traders watch closely as this new sugar cycle unfolds?
So, starting on this region, as I mentioned, we may see the United States a bit slowly on the import side. We just saw a previous crop that they imported less sugar. We know that the tariffs factor impacted a bit on the sugar part, but as we mentioned, the sugar consumption decline may put less emergency on U.S. imports. But around the world, we are facing major countries with with bigger production. Brazil is promising a really good crop for next year. China started its crop and it's really good. And China is an important consumer and importer of sugar, so maybe they will import less sugar. We are seeing revision on sugar consumption in other countries like China, India, Indonesia, some African countries. So the sugar market is really on a good figure for our supply. So we are facing global sugar balance with major uh, surplus, and then that's the history of sugar. If we have some any problems in crops like Thailand or Brazil or India, we may see change on trajectory. But overall, the bearish moment of sugar that carried around 2025, it can stay with us for a while, especially because of good 25-26 international crop that we expect.
I see. Understood. Marcelo, thank you so much again for all your insight. And thank you to our viewers for watching. For more financial content, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel.